and welcome to BCC Virtual Racing. Oh, I seem to have frozen on screen there. Let me just fix that. That's better. Funny background. I might just turn the camera off for this evening. Clearly something wrong. Anyway, welcome to BCC Virtual Racing, the last of the season handicap race. 3 minutes 12 seconds until the first rider is off. And tonight's course, the Greatest London Flat, not to be confused with many of the other courses in London. As usual, organised by Mark Shannon. Some 38-40 riders, I think, riding this evening. 7.5 kilometre lead in, followed by a one lap at 23.6k. And I'm just looking for the start list. Here we go. So first out of the gate is Rob Jones. Last, as no great surprise, will be Angus Stoneham. In between the two, a whole collection of riders. Some interesting positioning here, and I think, as far as I know, in terms of the overall competition for this season, everything to aim for tonight. All sorts of tactics underway, but we will see what happens. So, of course, for those of you that haven't watched a handicap race before, it is so designed so that all of the riders, regardless of speed, finish at approximately the same time. So it will get busier and busier as the race progresses. Course is largely flat, though, 143, 147 metres of climbing, which is not a great deal, but a couple of little steep ramps in the sort of virtual section of the London Underground as it comes back up to the surface. That can make a big difference. 1 minute 17 seconds before the first rider goes off, which is Rob Jones. Goes as soon as the clock gets to 2 hours and starts to count down. 40 riders signed in of the on the start line there of the 42 that have 41 now, just changed. Of the 41 riders that have said they're coming along. And following Rob Jones, Matt Slipper some 2 minutes later, but 10 seconds after him, Carmel Lord. Then Andy Telford at 1 hour and 56 minutes. And the bunch, let's have a look and see. An awful lot of riders going off, as you would expect, midfield from about 1 hour 48 minutes down to about 1 hour 46 minutes. Only one of our women riders, riding tonight. Carmel, of course, and Katie. And here we go, 10 seconds until the off. Let's see if I can find Rob Jones as soon as he gets going. Well, he must be moving. No sign of him yet. There he is. He is now underway. So Rob Jones leading the field outside of Buckingham Palace. Underway at 2.4 watts per kilo. He'll be out there himself for quite some time, I think, before the next rider catches him, because that is, there's the London Eye in the background. I'm not quite sure it's why it's in that position, but anyway, it will be 2 minutes, or just under 2 minutes now, before Matt Slipper gets underway. Hello, who's that suddenly appeared right next to him? Ah, Daniel Breen. I'm not quite sure what he's up to. I think that perhaps, oh, he stopped. Is he cheating? Is he trying to get ahead? He's realised what's been going on. I suspect he was pedalling hard on the turbo. Didn't notice that it had started, and there he is. So he's now I would reckon. Let's have a look. A couple more riders underway. All sorts of interesting tactics. I'm not sure how much of a boost forward O'Brien got Hindley as well. In fact, there they are, the two of them sitting on track looking at each other. I think at least half a kilometre there, so I have to bear that in mind when it comes to the finish. But there we are, Rob Jones now at 1.8 kilometres into the race, and another 10 seconds before Matt Slipper gets underway. Can't see him on the start list at the moment, but I'm sure he'll appear. Another rider, Hokima, that looks as if he's gone off early. Hindley's gone off early. O'Brien's gone off early. Not by very far, by the looks of it. Steve Plant is underway. I don't think he's on my start list, so maybe this is his start time. Otherwise, I was about to accuse him of going way too early. Carmel Lord underway. Am I just getting this wrong today? 1:57.50. No, she is supposed to be underway. So no sign of Matt Slipper. He doesn't seem to have appeared. So it is Rob Jones out front at 1.4 kilometres with a lead over Lord of 2 minutes 17 seconds. So let's just see how that changes in due course. And after Carmel we should have Andy Telford. Start time at 1:56.10, so it's Hokima sitting there looking at Marble Arch. Hindley sitting at the other side of Marble Arch by the looks of it. Plant, he was pedalling. There they are all lined up, having started early, but he's stopped and waiting. Not on my list though, so his start time is 1 hour 49.10. I think you need to look at the instructions a bit more clearly as to when to stop pedalling, but anyway, that's what it is. Wilkinson looks as if he's moved off a little bit early. Let's just have a look at the start. So there are all the riders lined up there, waiting patiently. Quite a few of them. Someone looking keen, facing the right direction. Davis as well. You can see Smith there at the start. He should be off shortly, but not before Richard Lay. Someone just clipped in. So most of those riders sitting there at the start line and waiting. Let's see what's happening up at the front of the race. So there is Rob Jones coming under Admiralty Arch into Trafalgar Square. Carmel is now 2:26 behind, so the gap I should say between her and Rob has gone up by about 10 seconds. Can't see Lay on course yet. Carmel at 1 kilometre 1.4 kilometres. Just scanning down the list to see if we could see Lay, but no sign of him. Andy Telford would be next. But I can't see him either at the moment. But don't worry, it will get much busier pretty quickly. Richard Lay, there he is. I hadn't seen him at the start, but there he is on screen now. Not quite sure what he's doing there though. Excuse the silence for 1 second, just trying to keep a track of where all of these various riders are. Back to the start list. So Richard Lay is 1:53, 40 seconds, so he should, according to my calculations, be underway, but perhaps he is doing the gentlemanly thing and realised he went 20 seconds early or whatever it was and is now waiting. So after him, hopefully, we've got someone starting on time, should be Jamie Smith, who I think, if I remember correctly, won the last handicap race. There I just saw him there, or was that Rob Smith? I thought I saw him, but Jamie Smith won the last handicap race, and now, of course, as a direct consequence of that, he's at 9.3 watts per kilo. This is kind of keen for a handicap race. Who is he trying to catch? Well, if he can hold that throughout the race, I've got a contract waiting for you on my desk. As I was saying, won the last handicap race, of course, has moved. So there's an interesting one. Sorry to interrupt. 40 seconds, and he's just passed. Was it? Can't remember who it was sitting on the screen there. That's someone else who's just gone past, Steve Plants. So Steve Plants at least got a 40-second advantage, as have the others by the looks of it. But yes, I was going to say here, of course, he's moved up the rankings a little following that win. Not so generous for him this time. So let's see. His gap to Rob Jones is 6 minutes 46 seconds. So I'll make a note of that and see how it changes. There's only 3 riders on the move. Pete Barlow's just started. Beg your pardon. 4 riders on the move at the moment. Barlow, Smith, Jones and Lord. Quebrada's showing at 1.6 watts per kilo, but no, it's stationary in fact. So here we are. Where is Rob Jones now? Still in the middle of London at 4.2 kilometres in, not on the actual course as such, or the lap anyway. It's still on the lead-in part of this. His gap to Carmel behind is staying consistent at 2 minutes 27 seconds. And from Jones back to Barlow now, we are at 7 minutes 58. So still no movement from Richard Lay. I would have expected him, whatever the circumstances, to have gone by now. Peter Jones has just started to move. Oh, wrong, can't catch him. Where is he? There he is. Just going past Buckingham Palace and Green Park. Holding 3 watts per kilo. Looks as if Alan Nixon is now underway as well, as is Wilkinson. In fact, he has Nixon right in front of him. I can't see that gap lasting long. I think Wilkinson's been growing from strength to strength. The rider to watch as his fitness returns. Let's just have a quick look at O'Brien here. I suddenly saw him pushing out some wattage, but I think it's just as some of the other riders passed a stationary rider. Sometimes Zwift seems to get a little bit confused, but there's Wilkinson just past Plant, who is at 0.6 kilometres. So does Plant have a 0.6 kilometre advantage? I'm not sure. We'll leave that up to the commissaires. And White is now underway. Should get Hokima going next at 1:49.30. Perhaps it's the list I have is not quite up to date, but anyway, he'll be going next on my list. Stoneham is now moving, and he should have started after Hokima, which he has, but Hokima's only now just moving. Could be technical problems, who knows, but underway. Now about 10 riders on the move. Let's have a look up the front. In fact, let's take a reading from Stoneham. If we can work out, he's 3:20 behind Barlow. Keep an eye on that gap and see how it's closing. At the front, Rob Jones. So Richard Hindley just started. And then Shannon's underway. Always easy to spot, of course, with that beacon rotating above his head. That's what I call a marked man. And who's that sneaking up behind him? Is that Alex Walker? I'm not sure. Could be. Let's have a look back and see. And yet another rider behind Walker. Could be Darren Wood. And someone behind him. Langan possibly. Then Littlewood's off. Ware's underway. So riders now beginning to move en masse. But back at the front, Richard Lay still not going anywhere. Clearly something's happened to him, so we'll leave him out for this race. There is Jones now at 6.4 kilometres, 2:23 ahead of Lord. So the gap has come down fractionally. And Smith to Jones, so from Rob Jones back to Jamie Smith was 6:46. It's now down to 5:23. That looks like an impressive performance so far. Perhaps it was that burst of over 9 watts per kilo at the start, but he is underway. Now, let's see what's going on in the back of the field. So, Campbell, our contender as always, 800 metres in, settled at 3.5 watts per kilo. 25 seconds behind him is Taff. 24 seconds, behind him, McQueen. 17 seconds further back, Mayhew Smith. Who else do we have? So O'Brien still on the start line. Reed is now underway, just past O'Brien, who had that sneaky head start there. Quebrada going to wave goodbye to O'Brien on the way past. And then, of course, Davis. There we go, with Quebrada just ahead of him. And looks as if Martin Wales is underway as well now, as is Scott Rowland. Just about to catch up with Wales by the looks of it, putting in a concerted effort here. He is gaining. It's a 4-second gap according to my information, but that seems like quite a bit for that distance. Maybe it is, but that is Scott Rowland. Jury, 5 watts per kilo, not hanging about. Brackey underway. Now we're getting into the final few riders. Let's just have a look actually on the is it just Lancia left? Looks like it. Clips in, no, changed his mind, back out again, getting a bit nervous. In fact, there he is, he's underway. So that looks like the last rider is moving. Should be Angus Stoneham according to my information, but I can't see him on the start list. O'Brien is supposed to be... in fact, I'm not sure what Lance is doing, because he was supposed to go off after Davis, actually. After Davis, before Wales, Rowland, Jury, Brachy and O'Brien, who hopefully is now moving. There he is, I think. Looks as if he may well have been reset back to the start. Who knows, but it will settle itself. Yes, that's where it looks a bit odd. So if you look on the screen now, O'Brien's 37 seconds ahead of Lance here. Yet he's at 0.6 kilometres and Lance is at 0.7 kilometres. So I'm sure and I hope it will sort itself out. So Jury, the first sprint times coming up on the left. So Lord has got the best so far, 28.04. And Jones, here we go. Suddenly changes, of course, as the next group of riders come through. Looks as if it's Neil Campbell, 18.95. Nice collection of different flags there. What have we got? Irish, Scottish, Colombian, Ukrainian, Welsh. Barry Pedley under the 1 kilometre banner. It's not 1 kilometre to go, but that's part of this course. Now, there were 3 riders together right there. Let's have a look and see if I can work out who that was. There's Stoneham. So that looks to be in this group. Let's see what's going on. Oh, Marcus Stoneham, sorry. I thought it was Angus. So Stoneham, Hokima, who else? White, May in this group. Timings on the right aren't quite right, but that's who those riders are. And then up front, there's a large group here. Let's look at this group, see what's going on. We've got Shannon, Walker, Langan, Sampson. Shannon easy to spot, of course. 6 riders there. Anyone behind? No one behind. So are these riders working together now? That is the question. Do team tactics come into play? Well, if they're thinking of time trialing it, they need to get in a line. If they're just having a rest and they're going to take advantage of each other, that seems to be what is happening. 4 or 5 abreast across the circuit. Where are they now? Piccadilly maybe coming up towards there. Somewhere around there perhaps. And in this group, who do we have? We have Quigley, Shannon, Walker as well. Is Stoneham in that group? No, Stoneham's in the group behind. Okay, anyway, let's move further forward. Has Wilkinson caught Nixon? No, he hasn't. In fact, the gap has widened to 45 seconds. That's 46. That's a bit of a surprise. But at the front, how are we doing? Rob Jones at 10k, still all by himself. It's the only disadvantage of being off at the front. I mean, you may well get there first, but of course you ride the bulk of this race all by yourself. No great incentive to push to catch someone in front of you. All he's got to look at is the time of the rider behind him. And how are we doing on that front? So the gap to Lord is closing down to 2 minutes 5 seconds, but here is Smith on an absolute flyer. That gap to Jones now down to 350. So 3 minutes roughly he's gained. Jones to Barlow. Rob Jones, not Peter Jones. Can't tell what that is. Let's see if I can. There's Rob Jones. 4:25. So that gap is closing rapidly as well. Was 7:58. Let's see where the contenders are. So Stoneham, Hokima, White, Plant, all in this group. Just about to catch up with, is it Nixon, I think? No. Wilkinson by the looks of it. Yes, they are gaining. In fact, May is in that group as well. It's a good ride from him. That's Wilkinson. Just about to be consumed by that chasing group. Now, moving back, let's see where the main contenders are. So here we have yet another group, Langan, Wood, Shannon. Who else is in here? Walker. Sampson. Okay, moving further back. Littlewood is riding with Ware. There they can see Shannon ahead, probably on the leaderboard on the right hand side, but they can see that yellow beacon. Okay, Littlewood at 7 kilometers. Campbell, see where he is, 6.6 kilometers. Taff at 6.4 kilometers. Pedley 6.2. Mayhew Smith 6.2. Rowland 5.4, along with Jury, Quebrada, Davis, Reed, working well as a team. O'Brien in there. Super Tuck, is this the Piccadilly underpass? Didn't see which one it was. No, it doesn't look like it. Bit of too much of a bend there. But here is a team of riders that look as if they are working well together. Could do with being in a bit more of a line. But a strong collection. There is Wales. Can see that group up ahead. And Stoneham. So let's take some readings from Stoneham. So he is, we'll call it the Davis group, is 440 behind them. And Stoneham is at 1.9 kilometers. The Davis group now at 6.2. 7 riders in that group. O'Brien on the leaderboard, he's ahead, but in distance he's behind. Someone's just about to pass him. Who is that? In fact, there we go. So that group comes together now, consists of O'Brien sitting out front, bit of a gap forming. Looks as if he's trying to pull away. Someone's up out the saddle there, trying to close that gap down. And that's O'Brien. Just pushing to not lose the... Not sure what he's doing there, but anyway. So that group, Davis, Reed, Jury, Brackey, not Rowland, and Quebrada, all at 6.9 kilometers. Up ahead, let's see, Taff 7.9, Campbell is 8.2. They'll be pushing to catch him, so they are 1.1 kilometers behind Campbell. And the race is at about 12-13k, I would imagine, for the front runners. And as a reminder, once that lead out of 7.5k is gone, 23.6, about 31.1 it should be, but it does seem to vary occasionally. Shannon 9.3. Let's see, so it's the Shannon group. At 9.5k, followed by Campbell 8.8k, Jury and Co at 7.9, so still about 1.1 kilometre gap. And up at the front, let's have a look. Oh, here we go. This is always an exciting part of this course. The very steep entry to the underground. Not sure which line it is, but anyway, got no people. Onto the tracks. Quite fun if that was allowed, and the riders will pop out shortly and reappear in another part of London. We'll just watch Smith now. He is 134, 133 behind Jones, and the gap between Jones and Lord is down to 1 minute. And this is where it gets a little bit trickier as it starts to climb. It's not a steep climb, this, but it does go on for a little bit. And it just is skirting around the edge of Box Hill with the Thames on one side. I think that's what it's supposed to be, but anyhow, not realistic, of course. So Jones still the front runner. Let's go through the list from the start. So Jones now at 13.5 kilometres, followed by Lord at 13 kilometres. That gap is now down to 51 seconds. And here's the performance of the evening so far. That is Smith with Lord in front, in sight. And Jones will not be far away, 700 metres. So if he keeps this up, he's going to close that gap, and that's certainly, I would predict that is the case at the moment. Barlow, just the gap between Rob Jones and Pete Barlow is now 2:27. That has come down from 7:58. And then to give you some idea, the gap between Barlow and Marcus Stoneham was 3:20. It is now 1 minute 19 seconds. And this is what I'm calling the Shannon group, with Wood, Walker, Langan. And it looks as if Wilkinson's in there for the moment as well, or has he just been passed? No, he's in this group at the moment. May in there, still riding nicely. Behind them, Campbell now at 11.3 kilometres, and the chasing pack for him will be the Jury group at 10.9. So they are closing 600 metres roughly, 500 even, until they catch up with Campbell. And who's on the front here? McQueen. Riding next to Taff. Let's have a look at this group again. Davis, Rowland, Quebrada, Reed, Jury, Wales. Well, there is Angus Stoneham, sitting on the start line, or somewhere. Managed to make 3.4 kilometres. Can't possibly imagine it's because he got a little bit too tired. Must have a technical issue of some description. Looks a bit dejected there. I think that's the last we'll see of him on this race. Wales has dropped off the group. O'Brien, what's he up to? Still in there using that strength as he drops down now with his teammates and others. Pushing to just get back on the wheel. It's a good choice. You need to do that there. This group of riders is going well. Quite who fancies himself for the win there, I'm not sure. Davis. Okay, 12.2 kilometres for the Davis group. That's 19 minutes, 21 seconds into it. Littlewood by himself by the looks of it. Yes, no one else in sight. Shannon at 13.3 kilometres and his group. Beginning to stretch out a little though. Langan just taking the lead. Approaching Marcus Stoneham. White just ahead. There's Shannon behind Wilkinson. That group is coming in fast. Where is Campbell? Let's see. Campbell is now at 13.1 kilometres along with McLaughlin, Ware, Taff. And in fact, Davis and Co are only, if it can be relied upon, 200 metres further back. So we'll stay with them just for a little bit. O'Brien, 19 seconds. In fact, there's a small breakaway by the looks of it here. O'Brien's pulled ahead of Mayhew Smith. He's just freewheeling. Is he possibly waiting for the others to catch up? But this is turning into quite a large group. Now, this is where these riders need to be careful. If they intend to maintain this pace, they've got to push past these slower riders. That's exactly what they're doing. This is good tactics here. They're trying to respond. And is it Mayhew Smith that's responded? Can't remember which bike he's on. But all these riders trying to push past. They are now. Try and get back to them. Sorry, clicked on the wrong one. 13.8 kilometres. Campbell's at 14.1. About a 13-second gap. Campbell, McLaughlin and Ware working hard together here, and they're going to have to push pretty hard to stay ahead of this chasing pack. Can we see them in the distance? Yes, we can. There they are, closing fast. This will give them a huge incentive to catch up. We'll come back to them in just a moment, but they're now at 14.3. And Rob Jones, looks as if Smith has gone into the lead. In that time I've been looking further down the field, so well done to him. So it's not just finishing in order of the start list. Hopefully this is nicely judged, but can he now stay ahead of chasing group behind him at 16.7 kilometres in, about another 10k roughly to 13k to go. So over halfway. The next group really that could possibly catch him would be the Shannon group, but they are over 1.5 kilometres behind. This is the tricky part of the course, coming back up out of the underground where it gets to 15%. The only way to tackle this one is literally to go flat out and spin like crazy, just to get enough momentum to get over that ridge onto the flat. Give yourself a second or two to recover, then off again. So Smith is now pulled 25 seconds ahead of Jones. The gap between Jones and Lord is 7 seconds. We might well be able to see that's because Lord was on the flat, but she now sees Jones right in front of her, taking advantage of her climbing ability, slowly pulling Jones in. Just see what happens. 2.7 watts per kilo from Lord. Jones 1.7. Doesn't look very fast, but it's hard on this 15% gradient, and there she is. A tremendous performance from her. Passes Jones, so Jones is not going to win this. At the moment it is Smith, Lord, then Jones. But Barlow is not far behind either. He is closing. In fact, there is Barlow coming up out of the underground. This will slow him down a bit, of course. That's what's happening at the front. What is happening further back? So the Wood, Walker, Quigley, Langan, May group now, and Shannon, it's the Shannon group I think I was calling it. Stoneham, Walker, all in there as well at 16.9 kilometres. It's Wilkinson still in there. Wilkinson's in that group. But 12 riders in there. Must be, see, it's strung out quite a bit. You could see who doesn't like the climbs. Just in the space of 20 seconds, it looks as if Sampson's pulling away from the rest of the group at the moment. There's Littlewood coming round. And now, so Campbell has been caught. So don't forget, although Campbell has been caught, it's first rider across the line that wins. Does not depend on when the rider started. But here, look at these riders. That's the way to ride over the top of that. That was a superb climb from Campbell. Big rider, but should suit him actually. He's got plenty of power. A rower, which does help in that kind of effort. Right up next to Jury, a rider he's ridden with often, but what is Jury and the rest of her team up to? So she is pulling away from the rest of them by the looks of it. I'm not sure in the tactics in terms of team positions and who needs to be where to win in a team sense. I'm sure it's been well planned. Davis. So the riders spread out in a line. Looks as if Reed has fallen away from the back of that group, as has Wales, that we know about. Stoneham we're not talking about. Angus, anyway, he's still sitting not far after the start. And there is O'Brien. A customary sort of move from O'Brien. Sort of drifts away a little bit, but recovers, and then has got big power to get up out of the saddle and catch up. He's certainly not giving up on this. That's an impressive performance. 10.7, 0.1, 11.5 watts per kilo, and he's going to do the job, catching up with who next? Pedley. I don't think he'll latch back on till he has. I beg your pardon. It's like a Murray Walker moment. I don't think he's going to, and he has. There he is, back in that group, looking a bit more comfortable now. Looks as if these riders might be taking turns on the front. That is the way to race this if you want to get there as fast as possible. But the risk, of course, is a sprint finish right at the very end. And Jones has been overtaken by the Shannon group. Now the gap between, let's see if we can work out the gap between the Davis group, the Davis Jury group, and group up front, which has Shannon and Co. And they are now at 19.1 kilometers. Davis is at 18.7 kilometers at 19.2 into the race and 40 minutes. So there is a possibility these groups could come together as well. I'll try and work out what the gap is time-wise. 19.4, 18.9, 40, 44 seconds at the moment. Plenty of time, some power-ups coming out there. Pete Barlow. Where is he in relation to his main competitors? He's at 19.5k. Been overtaken by the Beacon group, I should call them. The Beacon over Mark Shannon, of course, as the organizer of the meetup. So this is the man that's now in the hot seat. 20.4 kilometers. Smith. Next rider behind him is Walker. Or the Walker, who is it? Walker, Sampson, Wilkinson, Langan group. They are now roughly 40 seconds behind and closing by the looks of it. Needs to be in the drops there if he wants to get a bit more speed. Looking a bit big on the biceps though. I'm not quite sure where that comes from. Anything behind? No riders in view yet. London Eye out on the left. So the gap now closing, still 30 odd seconds. So there is Shannon, and the gap now to the chasing pack behind is down to 30 seconds. So the Shannon to Davis group is at 30 seconds. Campbell has stayed with this group. We'll have a quick look and see what's happening at the back. I suspect Martin Wales is the last rider at the moment. He's cruising, I think, rather than racing at this stage, but good for him. Can finish that. Reed is next, has dropped off his group. Then Taff, Hindley, Rob Jones and Carmel Lord. Moving further back in the field now, Littlewood at 20.7, Peter Jones 20.9. Looks as if the who's this? Wood, McLaughlin, Pedley, Pete Barlow just been caught, I think. All at 21.3. Aha, now this is interesting. Up this, is it Northumberland Avenue? Can't quite remember, but anyway, up this small incline to Trafalgar Square. Looks as if the Shannon group has come into view for... There they are, in fact. So this is going to be very interesting. Now, O'Brien's right off the front there, as is Campbell by the looks of it. If they are riding as a team, this is not going to help them much. Really do need to conserve energy and just wait for them to come to you. Don't go pushing ahead up out of the saddle. Well, he is waiting now, and just take advantage of that. Recover for a bit. About to catch up with Bracky, who's freewheeling down here. So he's now pulled out 4 seconds ahead of Davis. Rowland, Quebrada, Dury. What's happening with Campbell? Still in there. Scott Rowland. So the group has thinned slightly, but riding well. So only 9 seconds behind the Shannon group now. So the Davis Jury group 22.6 kilometers, the Shannon group at 22.8. O'Brien still pushing out the numbers, trying to drag these riders behind him forward, I think, but he's actually losing them. Maybe he wants to get on the back of this group just so he can have a rest. Clearly not a team performance. But this is the individual handicap, so that could be a good move for him. He's bridged that gap, which is a hard thing to do. Made quite a bit of effort doing it. Now if he can just sit in there in the bunch, recover for a bit, he will be doing well. So on the way back, going backwards, Shannon to Davis 6 seconds. And so that I don't forget, let's go back up to the front of the field. In fact, have I missed the front of the field? Can't have done. Might have done. So it looks as if Smith might have finished first. I'm sorry to say I missed him crossing that line. This is what happens on... So it looks as if Peter Jones is the current front runner that I can see. 22.8. No, Littlewood's further ahead. 23.9. 24 kilometers. 24.1. This could be the front. Well, Zwift seems to be so there. Smith there. What happened? 24.3. Oh, he hasn't won. He's well, it's too early. He's been consumed by that chasing pack. So one win was it for him. Now he drifts back through the field and up at the front. At the moment, it is Gavin Wilkinson. Maybe he didn't expect himself to be there, but that's where he is right now. So he can say he has been leading this race. What happens in the next few kilometres is anybody's guess. Excuse me. This is almost like a conventional crit race now. So many riders in here. As you'd expect, Davis up front, Quebrada along with him. Jury, never one to give up. Marcus Stoneham, though, looks as if he's trying something off to the finish line. No, Bracky's coming past fast. Is it going to be Bracky? Looks like it. Then there we have Samson crossing the finish line. Next is Quigley, just ahead of Jury, possibly. Well, Jury might have been first, actually. Wilkinson, a very respectable position there. Can't catch, you have to get the finish. O'Brien finished. What's happening to Campbell's finished as well. Ware next, by the looks of it. Oh no, he's battling out with Rob Smith. That is Smith there with Pedley and Ware hot on his heels. Next will be McLaughlin and White coming in. No contention there. It's going to be McLaughlin followed by White, I think. Ooh, maybe not. Here is Wood and Littlewood. That's Wood has crossed the finish line. Littlewood's next. You can see the finish line there ahead of him. Shannon sitting beyond the finish line. So it looks as if I've missed a few riders, but that's what happens, I'm afraid. And Jones now approaches the finishing line. And the question now is this order going to change? It's unlikely, other than between Reed and Wales, who are next to each other. That's a familiar finishing line for those that have ridden the Ride London event. And if you haven't, it's much further than you think. Once you come under, or the finish line comes into view, if I remember, it's a good 500 metres, but it looks a lot closer. It's Hindley, and behind him, Taff, about to cross the finish line. There he is, followed by Wales, and where is Reed? Reed has him just in his sights ahead, but unlikely, I think, to catch him. Although if Wales isn't careful, he's closing very quickly. 6 seconds is a big ask over this distance, though. No, that's not going to happen. There's the end of the sprint line, but Reed gives it a little push there, and it's going to be Wales that crosses the line, followed by Reed. And then the last two riders on course, Carmel Lord, 24.9, and the final rider on course is Rob Jones. So thank you all for watching. I hope that managed to get most of you finishing in some shape or form. Not sure when the next race is, but I'm sure I'll be there.